Hi, I'm Avery Davidson.
And I'm Kristen Oaks White. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week.
$110 million. That's the latest estimate of damage to agriculture from the flood of 2016, according to the LSU Ag Center. While corn and soybeans ready to harvest were among the hardest hit, cotton is not faring much better.
Rain since the flood are having an impact on this year's crop. As TWILA's Carl Wiggers explains, more than 14 inches of rain over the last 2 weeks in the cotton belt is taking a toll.
Sickening.
Crop consultant and cotton farmer Tim White did not have such an ill feeling a month ago. This field was vibrant and alive, but now?
That's boll rot right there. The boll just literally rotted as it was trying to open.
This kind of damage is just one sickness August rains brought to cotton fields across Louisiana.
With the rainfall that we've had during the month of August, that was in the time that this cotton should be opening for us to have a crop to pick, and the rainfall has caused a lot of boll rot and hard lock, which means a lot of these bolls that have tried to open will not be harvestable.
Within the last two and a half weeks, we've received in excess of 13 inches, right at 14 inches. And in that time period, we were seeing rain every day except for about 3 days, actually. So, with that raining every day like that, we haven't had a chance to dry out.
Dan Fromme is the cotton specialist for the LSU Ag Center.
We were set up to have some really good yields.
He says with continued daily rains, these problems will only get worse.
Major issues have been the seed sprouting, in the bolls, boll rot, and then also we've seen some hard lock bolls. And then of course the number one question you get is, how drastic is it? When you do, you go out and walk the fields, I can easily see half a bale to a bale, that we've lost in a lot of these fields. Very, very disheartening.
All you have to do is look at White's face as he tours this field and listen to his voice when he talks about the damage to know just how disheartening it really is.
Carl, I think a lot of this cotton, typically for us in this part of the state, we'll raise a crop that's 1,000 to 1,250 pounds. I think this year, a good crop is going to be 750 pounds. I think we're going to be off anywhere on some of the less affected stuff as little as 20% and up to possibly 50% in other areas.
Half a crop with full investment means trouble for Louisiana cotton farmers. In Alexandria, I'm Carl Wiggers for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture.
Fromme says the most important thing for cotton farmers moving forward is for the rain to stop. The longer this crop is in the field, the more susceptible it is to more damage, and these cotton crops can't handle any more of that.
The historic rainfall surged through the last dairy farm in East Baton Rouge Parish. Heavy rain displaced more than 150 head of beef cattle on Victor and Joy Womack's dairy operation. On top of that, stress and a lack of nutrition has reduced milk production in the dairy herd. Stress-laden dairy cows have suffered the most, according to Joy Womack. As much as 5 feet of water inundated these hay fields and forced these dairy cows to stay under cover. That, coupled with high heat, has reduced the amount of milk produced by these Holsteins. And now, because these cows have to be milked twice a day, Womack now worries about keeping her animals fed with fresh hay. Womack explained that mold has begun to grow on her winter hay, which will now have to be destroyed.
You can't cut any hay. We have no extra hay for this year due to the weather situation. Right. So that's making it hard on us and everybody else in the community because nobody has hay for their cows this year. So it's a hard road that we have to look down, but we're still blessed.
Womack explained that she will have to wait on new ryegrass to come in once the mold-ridden hay is cut and burned off.
The Louisiana Farm Bureau Livestock Committee's hay clearinghouse continues to help the state's ranchers impacted by the flood. Livestock Committee Chair Marty Woolridge says the clearinghouse has collected and delivered more than 500 round bales of hay and 1,600 square bales to cattlemen and horse owners in need. In addition to donations of hay and transportation, Woolridge says the committee has secured a $5,000 grant from greatergood.org. That money will be used to buy hay and pay for transportation. Also, to help out the horse owners in the state, Straight Arrow Products of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, the company which makes mane and tail shampoo, also donated $5,000 to the hay clearinghouse. The company also donated mane and tail shampoo, conditioner, along with its antimicrobial Protect line for horses hurt in the flood. Also, Quality Liquid Feed donated 300 protein tubs. We'll have more on these donations next week. If you would like to learn more about the hay clearinghouse, you can visit our website at twilatv.org.
Commissioner of Agriculture and Forestry Dr. Mike Strain continues to meet with farmers and ranchers across the state. At a recent visit to the Point Capee Farmers Elevator and Bachelor, Strain saw firsthand the damage the continued wet weather is doing to soybeans there and in the fields. Strain says many farmers across the state have crop insurance, but that will only be enough to keep those farmers from going out of business.
Crop insurance is not like homeowners insurance. You can have a total loss of your crop, and it may only pay up to 40%. So you're not made whole. It's a shallow loss recovery program of those things. And the reason we stand our farmers back up, if we lose agriculture, we lose the foundational industry of the state. Original dollars. That's where the source of income, source of wealth, source of money starts, from the natural resource-based industries. And if we lose that, we lose food security, we lose national security, but we also lose the largest industry in the state that employs over 275,000 people, that is responsible overall for between $75 and $100 billion in Louisiana's economy. That's why it's so critical and important.
Commissioner Strain says while farmers can see the damage in their fields now, it will not be until next year that we know how the floods impacted crawfish farmers, and that's because you have a lot of crawfish under the ground. When the flood water goes over, believe it or not, crawfish can drown, and that's where they're concerned about what's going to happen next year. Well, this week, posts about the flood of 2016 were dominating the news feeds on social media once again. As
residents finish gutting their homes and start the rebuilding process, mold is a growing concern for many homeowners.
Shortly after the flood, several articles were circulating on Facebook claiming that bleach does not kill mold on porous surfaces.
Some people posted photos encouraging others to invest in a moisture meter to monitor the progress of your home dry out to avoid future problems with mold and mildew.
One Baton Rouge area home inspector answered questions regarding mold growth on WAFB Channel 9. That's Kevin Dinkle. He says the wood's moisture level should be less than 17% before homeowners can start rebuilding.
The LSU Ag Center posted several informative articles in an attempt to debunk many of the myths floating around online and to answer your mold and mildew questions. To find a link to those articles, visit our website at twilatv.org.
As relief efforts continue across South Louisiana, many are posting concerns about the Red Cross's flood response as volunteers and elected officials question their policies. Photos of meager meal boxes from the Red Cross are popping up all over social media. Many volunteers say the organization is also withholding supplies and donations from flood victims in their shelter.
A spokesman from the Red Cross responded on its Facebook page saying, "Please know that we are very sad to hear this. It's our practice to put our shelter residents first, so we apologize for this occurrence. Our volunteers and staff continue to work around the clock to care for as many people as quickly as possible, and so often we are met with hugs and thank yous. This certainly wasn't the case here, so we are taking this very seriously."
And they should. Harvest season rolls on here in Louisiana, and farmers are keeping an eye on the weather. That's because there is a named storm in the Gulf of Mexico while we shoot this show. And what started as a bumper crop year for many farmers is now showing signs of damage from too much rain.
As Carl Wigger showed us earlier in the show, cotton farmers in North Louisiana did not escape the damage from heavy rains earlier in August. Daryl Vandeven posted this picture saying it's going to take a bunch of these to make a bale of cotton.
Adding insult to injury, rain continues to delay harvest as farmers are desperately trying to get their crops out of the field. Robert Brunet posted this pic on Southern Farming with the caption, "It never ends. Today was 20%.
Christian Richard posted, "The definition of irony, 130 acres of rice ruined, but the rainbow is pretty." And it's something that All farmers across the state, whether you had crops that went underwater, they're all dealing with too much rain at a time that they really don't need rain.
Yeah, harvest season is not a time when they want rain. One, it messes up their fields. Two, it can damage the crop. And three, it actually costs them money to harvest when it's wet because they have to use more diesel. It takes a lot more power to get through it.
They have to put tracks on, and they have to put them in bins to dry out. So we hope that they get this crop out of the ground and start over again next year. Well, still to come on TWILA, how gardening promotes healthy eating in children.
But first, it's like Iron Chef, but with seafood, and the chefs are much younger. Stay with us. For more than 60+ years, the Louisiana Food Service and Hospitality Expo has welcomed chefs, suppliers, and many others to New Orleans.
Louisiana agriculture, namely seafood, is front and center for the event, especially during the Louisiana Seafood and Promotion Board's Great American Seafood Cook-Off. Hosted by the Louisiana Restaurant Association, the expo features Louisiana agriculture prominently in displays on the show floor. During this amazing food show, buyers and suppliers alike can see for themselves how Louisiana seafood, produce, and the flavor play a big role in the food service industry. Because Louisiana agriculture is so rich with flavor, more than 10,000 people visit this expo every year. Louisiana Restaurant Association Vice President of Communications Wendy Warren describes the historical role that agriculture plays in this fantastic food show.
In the national landscape, farm to table has been around for a few years, but it really took hold here in Louisiana. With Cajun country, they were farming rice, they were catching crawfish, they were, doing truck farms, and that really has been how our society and culture here in Louisiana has evolved. And as restaurant dining became popular in the 50s, 60s, 70s, it's really a place where Louisiana farmers can connect with the consumer beyond the grocery store or the farmer's market. They can go to a restaurant and get squash blossoms on a menu, or local tomatoes, which are so delicious. And now there's so many more varieties that are grown here in the state beyond the Creoles that we're seeing a lot of different types of tomatoes as well, for example. So it's really, it's created more awareness for the consumer to look for these types of products.
This year, more than 11 chefs from across the nation competed for the title of King of American Seafood during the Great American Seafood Cookout, or GASCO. Hosted by the Louisiana Food Service Expo, Chef Alex Eaton of Jackson, Mississippi won the crown for his trio of Gulf shrimp. The Louisiana Seafood and Promotion Board started the timed competition back in 1994 to promote consumption of Gulf of Mexico seafood.
Described as the Olympics of seafood cooking, the Great American Seafood Cook-Off is not only a test for professional chefs, but it's also a test for 4-H'ers who compete. As
TWILA's AJ Sabine shows us, high school teams from 5 states, including Louisiana, fired up their pans to vie for $1,000 from the Louisiana 4-H Foundation, as well as the title of Cook-Off Champ.
Brothers Stefan and Stephen Wilson of Wynn Parish 4-H feel the sizzle of competition during the Great American Seafood Cook-Off 4-H edition. High school students from Texas, Arkansas, South Carolina, Mississippi, and Louisiana show off their culinary skills for a chance to win $1,000. All 5 teams competed in their home state for a chance to win here. For Stefan Wilson, getting his blackened alligator in this competition has taught him a lot.
4-H has taught me a lot of things. Like I say, I've talked with Donnie Money. He has taught me lots of things about cooking. We cooked at 4-H camps and stuff, and I've had a local chef that came in a couple weeks ago, and he gave me a perspective of things I can do to improve my recipe. So I really thank 4-H for helping me learn to cook.
Education is a huge part of this experience, says Program Coordinator Quincy Cheek. Every team must demonstrate knowledge of the commodity in their respective recipes, as well as food safety during the competition. Cheek says learning about sustainability is but one of the goals of this competition.
Agriculture is the primary focus, of course, with our seafood industry. Also, the kids are asked, not only from Louisiana, but the other states that compete, are asked to bring in commodities that are important to their respective states. So we encourage them to research those things, talk with the producers, get with the farmers, know where their products came from, and be able to include that as part of their presentation and what they're doing with their dish.
From South Carolina peaches to Texas shrimp kebabs, these 4-H chefs know their stuff. Based on the faces of the judges, the flavor says it all. The Wilsons know it's not going to be easy, but they are here to win.
I'm kind of a little bit nervous, but then everybody tells me, you're going to be all right, you're going to do good. So I got a feeling that I'm going to do good today and show everybody.
Louisiana Restaurant Association Vice President of Communications Wendy Warren says this competition could inspire healthy eating for these future food stars.
4-H is a really great program, and I was a project leader for 7 years, and a big part of our curriculum was nutrition and healthy living. Louisiana seafood and domestic seafood fits into that perfectly because they're rich with nutrients, rich with vitamins, omega-3s, things like that.
Drum roll, please, and the winner is Texas. This marks the second year in a row that the Texas team has won the Great American Seafood Cookout 4-H edition. So congratulations to those young people. You know, getting young people to eat healthy food is not the easiest thing to do.
Oh no, as the father of a picky 3-year-old, I can attest to that. What's also concerning is that 1 in 2 children in Louisiana is currently considered overweight or obese. That's according to experts at the Pennington Biomedical Research Center. Those researchers say one way to change that trend is by growing a backyard garden.
Okay, where do you want to start?
It's harvest season in Ashley Dupuy's backyard.
Oh, look, here's one.
Her nephew, Lathan Williams, does more than help pick.
These are your favorite, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You know what I'm going to say next. He helps eat the cucumbers.
What do you want to cook with this, since we haven't picked these yet?
I don't know. What would you cook with them?
I just like sauteed eggplant with a lot of other vegetables mixed in.
And the eggplant.
Do you want to cut some of the chives? Do you know what the chives are?
No.
Chives are kind of like, they taste kind of like onions.
And the chives. So let's cut to the chase, and I'll tell you, that's the point of the story.
What's your favorite thing about gardening?
That I eat a lot more vegetables.
Gardening is not Dupuy's day job. She works as a research specialist at the Pennington Biomedical Research Center in Baton Rouge. The garden is just something that sort of took over her back patio.
Initially, we were just going to do the tomatoes over there, but then we decided to add the cucumbers, and then once we did the cucumbers, we wanted eggplant and we wanted everything. So we have bell peppers and banana peppers, and our herb garden over there.
And her nephew's initial reaction?
I thought to myself, well, what's the point of having it? That's why stores are made. But whenever they planted it, I saw that they were fresher and that we could make more stuff with them.
I find that the vegetables from our garden taste better than the ones from the grocery store. They taste like fresher, and it's also easy to just come up with like recipes on the whim, because I can come out here and, oh, there's an eggplant, I'll use that today.
Coming up with recipes may be easy, but Williams knows this is not the easy way to eat.
It's actually a lot of hard work.
What do you have to do?
You have to water them every day. You have to wait a while to pick them, and you need to watch out for the bugs. That way they won't get to them first.
In the kitchen, William starts making his favorite, cucumber and tomato salad with vinegar and Cajun seasoning.
Do you like to eat watermelons?
Pennington Research dietitian Kate Farb joins Williams in the kitchen and gets us back to the point of this story.
The kids are much more likely to eat the fruits and vegetables if they have a hand in helping to develop the garden, because they've taken ownership of the garden. It's part of something that they have helped to create. They pick it themselves, they choose how they want to prepare it, so really consumption just increases altogether.
Williams would tell you he agrees, but his mouth is a little too full right now. So let's have Farb explain when you should get young people involved in the garden.
You get them started from the very beginning. You get them helping in building the gardening plots and or picking out containers that they would like to garden in. You give them the tools that they need. They get really excited about the tools, so you give them their own shovels and gloves and all the necessary things they need to get it started. And then you allow them to actually start the garden. So they get their hands dirty. You know, they're in the garden themselves, helping to take care of the plants. You give them activities, you let them measure the plants and keep track of them, take photos of the plants. You give them all sorts of activities involving the garden. And by the time the produce actually arrives, they're really excited to try it. This is something that they grew with their own hands.
And peeling beneath the surface of the story, Farb says healthy eating habits early in life can help prevent heart disease, diabetes, and a whole myriad of diet-related health problems in adults.
By starting to eat them fruits and vegetables earlier in life, they're much more likely to continue eating fruits and vegetables later in life. Once you develop the taste for a fruit or vegetable and it becomes a part of your daily routine, then you are much more likely to continue eating it in the future.
That salad was excellent. By the way, if you would like more information about the research done on healthy eating, or if you want some recipes, click over to our website, twilatv.org. They have a lot of cool stuff there by the Pennington Biomedical Research Center.
It looks good, and I'm not a big salad eater, but it looks good.
It looks good.
Well, still to come on TWILA, how rising floodwaters made rice prices rise as well.
Stay with us.
Rice prices shot up quickly in the immediate aftermath of the flood of 2016. However, they've come back down since then, in some cases lower than before. Neil Malasaw now joins us for this week's Bottom Line. And Neil, it seems like rice producers here in Louisiana are facing challenges from two different fronts.
They really are. I mean, it's just like they're getting the worst of two worlds, really. First, I want to talk about what happened in the markets in the immediate aftermath of the flood. Louisiana is currently the #3 rice producing state behind California and Arkansas, so when we flooded, the markets took notice. Now, that's a good thing when we make an impact on the national stage. The downside, though, is that without more concrete numbers, the impact didn't last very long. As you can see, prior to the flooding, rice had fallen to around the mid-$9 per hundredweight range. This is from predictions of a good growing season here in the U.S., as well as a growing surplus in the world market. August 15th was the first trading session post-flood, and you can see the market gained about 10% of its value over 2 days. You can see prices reached about $1 more than the trading range prior to the flood. Now it was before, though, it slipped back down to that mid-$9 range towards the end of August, so that's that fall off there. The bottom line here is that it would have been nice to have higher prices to compensate for some of these flood losses. We still just don't know what effect the flood will have on our rice crop overall, though. We're at the mercy of market forces that have moved past the flood and are looking at the rice surplus on that world stage. It's doubtful we'll move beyond this range until we see 1, another disaster, which I hope not, 2, a sudden positive change in exports, or 3, after harvest when we can get real numbers and traders look at other factors. And Kristen, you know, part of this is we don't know what the ratoon crop is going to be. You know, does that rice crop come back and make a good harvest for these guys and show good profitability? If so, the markets will pretend like this flood never existed and the prices will stay lower. I kind of hope that's what will happen so that you know, farmers can make more money even off volume, even if prices are lower. But we could end up in a scenario where that second crop doesn't come through and prices stay at that mid-$9 range or even go lower.
Well, I know that rice farmers, soybean farmers, corn farmers, all of them are just ready for the season to be over with, to put it in the books and hopefully start again next year.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Neil Malasaw. Well, that does it for this edition of TWILA. Be sure to join us next week when we'll show you how the help continues to flow from following the flood of 2016. Until then, you can watch all of our stories online at twilatv.org, and be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For all of us here at TWILA, thanks for joining us. We hope to see you again right here next week.